Hey, welcome back to the Quacking Pancakes YouTube channel. I'm Kory and this is Technical Knockout Reviews. So this program is actually based on a parody Evan and I did back then in like 2015 on a Disney iPhone phone case. It was meant to be a little bit satirical in a sense where you could literally slip your phone in the phone case in like 1 second, but content creators would still somehow find a way to make the video 20 minutes long. Anyways, today we're reviewing the 2015 MacBook Pro. Still considered by many to be the best MacBook ever made. How does it hold up in 2022? So a little disclaimer, let me go ahead and tell you first that I'm not really into any of the numbers that go in with the specs or anything for this computer. I like to think more about the real world usage. So, what's the battery life like? Is it a very comfortable computer? And what can I expect in terms of performance if I'm buying this? So that's what the video will focus on today. So my history of MacBooks goes all the way back to like 2007 maybe, when my Uncle Josh moved in with my family after graduating college. He went to Full Sail University and everyone there got a MacBook and he loved and cherished that thing. So he taught me a few things about using Logic Pro, and I would mess around with that, GarageBand and iMovie and all that stuff. It was a good time. Then he moved out when I was in 7th grade, and believe it or not, I actually went through the entirety of middle school and high school without having a computer, which is crazy to think about because I was still finding ways to write papers and stuff. I don't even remember how I did it. I think Evan let me borrow his Microsoft Surface or something, but yeah, didn't have a computer all throughout that time. And then when I got into college, I got this like HP, like Darth Vader, Kylo Ren inspired computer that I have no idea what even happened to it today. And then in 2017, I was between buying the brand new like MacBook Pro that just came out and it had the touch bar and all that stuff, and it was space gray and it was super fancy, or I could get a maxed out 2015 model. And let me go ahead and say, I made the wrong decision. Like, I had to deal with the touch bar always freezing or just not even appearing, and those computers didn't even have function keys, so you couldn't adjust the volume sometimes if it disappeared, or the brightness, or even the escape key. Like, you were like totally screwed if the touch bar disappeared and something was failing on your computer. Not to mention the keyboard was pretty faulty, as everyone knows, and while my keyboard never personally had any issues where it broke completely, I did get a couple stuck keys sometimes that was pretty annoying to fix. So I can't even imagine if you had to go ahead and replace the whole keyboard or even the whole computer at that point. So I had that computer until last November and I cherished it and babied it and everything, but I just felt like it was time to move on. And it happened to be that there was such a great deal on eBay for this computer because the person who sold it to me listed it as a 2014, and me being a little bit into specs but not really understanding what any of it means, I knew that the 2015 came with the AMD Radeon R9 or whatever. And so I saw on the spec sheet that it had that, and I figured he was probably selling a 2015 and didn't even know what he had. He was also selling it for a huge loss at that point too. So, I kind of had to take advantage of the situation, and I bought the thing. So today I think you could find these on eBay for around $300 to $400 for a 13-inch and maybe $500 to $600 for a 15-inch depending on the specs. I've loved this computer so far, and it's nice having ports, especially because I take a lot of pictures obviously, and I'm filming the YouTube channel, and having the SD card makes everything a million times easier, especially because I would be traveling and stuff and I'd always forget like my dongles or my USB hubs, and that was a little bit of a nightmare. Not to mention MagSafe is pretty fantastic too, and I'm glad they brought that back on the new machines. And although the trackpad is considered small by today's standards, it's still one of the best on the market, and I especially love the Force Touch and everything like that. Very consistent, pretty amazing, I love it. Not even to mention the keyboard, it's so fantastic. I went from the butterfly switches as my first introduction to I briefly used a MacBook Air with the new Magic Keyboard, and I like that, but there's something about this one that I enjoyed a lot, and it's why I keep coming back to it. Honestly, as much as I loved my old laptop, I don't exactly miss it. But how well does my new one hold up today? Well, first, the majority of my time spent on this computer is split between the same programs every day. Google Chrome, Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, and Adobe Creative Suite apps like Lightroom, Photoshop, and Illustrator. I'd say if you prefer Safari or Firefox, you're probably fine, but just using Chrome on this one, it's the first time I've noticed how much battery it actually uses. The cycle count that came with this one is actually pretty low, so it's either been replaced or it's just not been used this entire time. But I've noticed that even with just 1 to 2 tabs open of basic web browsing, Gmail, and Google Docs, the thing still happens to drain at a faster rate than I'd like to. Throw in YouTube on Google Chrome and it's even more than that. So Photoshop, Lightroom, and Illustrator actually work pretty well for photo editing and graphic design. And I'd say unless you're working with large quantities of photos or projects open, then the fan will almost never kick on for me when I'm using it. I should note though that the 15-inch model that I'm using has the dedicated graphics, so I'm personally unsure of how the base model or the 13-inch model might perform without that. Compared to my 2016 or anything newer, Logic Pro is still fairly snappy and usable, but like most computers, the CPU can be limited depending on the amount of plugins or tracks that you're using in a project. This definitely taught me how important it is to freeze your tracks whenever you're not using them, and then everything works completely fine after that. Now on to Final Cut Pro. So let me go ahead and get this out of the way first. It's definitely very usable. The majority of the Quacking Pancakes videos I made for the YouTube channel were produced using this computer, and I've even been able to make some smaller independent type films on here too. That being said, it can be pretty slow sometimes, especially in terms of rendering and transcoding and all that stuff. The fans are definitely always going to be on, so if you're going to be recording anything, you might want to have this tucked away somewhere when you're producing audio of any kind for your videos. But overall, yeah, it definitely still gets the job done. This computer has been my daily driver and workstation for the YouTube channel, and although it has its hiccups, I'd say it's gotten the job done so far. But who would this laptop be for today? Some of you may remember that I tried getting me and Evan work laptops with those 2009 white plastic MacBooks, and that didn't work out so well. But fortunately, I was able to get him a 13-inch 2015 model, and he's been testing that out for the past week.
So I've been a long time Windows user. I've had Windows laptops my whole life. I just built a PC a couple years ago, and this was my first experience with a Mac OS type device. So far, it's been great. I've been using it for about a week now, and for a 2015 laptop, it's been a great experience. It feels very durable, very sturdy. Everything's fast, everything's snappy, and I've had no issues yet. I don't think I have ever felt a keyboard that feels like this. It's very clicky in a way. A lot of newer laptops are very spongy. They have spongy keys, but these are very tactile. They have like an actual click to them. The trackpad itself is different. I have never experienced a trackpad that has the haptic feedback before. Everything is kind of mechanical. So that's a new experience. This one is, I believe, Force Touch is included into it. So that's kind of cool if I just need to like long press something, look at definitions and whatnot. It's been pretty cool. So far, I've used it for a little Logic Pro. I've used GarageBand with my iPhone for almost 6-7 years now. You know, it's been fun for like hobby music making, but now I can actually hook up an interface to it, an audio interface, and play around with instruments. There are a lot more features. I've got more room to work with, so it's actually very helpful. I've also been doing word processing for the episodes that Kory and I do for the podcast. Really fun to type on. Everything is super fast and responsive. And I've also been using it for video editing. I've tried to do it a little bit, but because there is no graphics card in this model, it can get a little slow at times. So I would say that this laptop is probably not the best for heavy duty video editing. So Kory and I have done a little bit of video conferencing on the MacBooks. I've had an iPhone now for almost 10 years, and you know, that's been pretty easy, pretty slick, but actually having it on a device like a laptop is super easy, simple, and very streamlined, especially when your two devices, your iPhone and your MacBook it's kind of like one singular environment. iMessage has been really useful. That's one feature that I wish Windows incorporated somehow, but you know, I have an iPhone, so it wouldn't work anyways. But just being able to type something up really quick or share documents with iMessage has been very, very, very nice. AirDrop is also super convenient. We've been able to share some of the videos that we've recorded for our podcasts, and you send it from your phone to your MacBook, and there you have it on a device. You can send it off and do whatever you want with it. So there really hasn't been anything that I have disliked about this laptop. I think the thing that surprised me most is that it is a 7-year-old laptop, and it has definitely stood the test of time. Compared to other 7-year-old Windows laptops that I've used in the past, you know, they get sluggish, they get slow, you kind of have to replace the RAM, some like the hard drives. But for this, everything is stock still, and you know, it's been great. It's been responsive, it's been fast, snappy, and for what I could need it for, it has definitely performed just as well as I'd hoped. If you are someone who is looking to get into the Mac space, looking to kind of learn Mac OS and dive in as like an entry-level laptop, this is perfect. It's super affordable. You definitely won't be able to tell that it came out 7 years ago. This is a very fast laptop. It's perfect for word processing, video conferencing, emails, Netflix, entertainment, YouTube, any sort of thing like that. I think the only thing I would watch out for is if you're trying to get into the heavier things like gaming or video editing, you'd want to make sure that you do get the one with the graphics card. If you're like an IT professional, you don't need anything super expensive, you just need to learn the basics of Mac OS for any of your clients, this is definitely the laptop for you. That's really all I have to say about this. I mean, I have been pleasantly surprised. I know Kory's been trying to get me to mess around with the MacBooks, and I just have been very resilient, but you never know. Maybe next time I look into laptops, I'll have to look at the MacBooks, because I mean, these are great. I've loved them so far. All right, let's kick it back to Kory.
So final thoughts, I really do love this machine, and I wish that, you know, Apple had continued using this same model, maybe update it with a couple USB-C ports on the side instead of moving completely towards that at the time. But kept this same form factor, kept MagSafe, and even the USB-A ports, HDMI, and SD card reader. I just ordered the new M1 Pro 14-inch, and that should be coming in within the next month or so, and I'm very excited to kind of A/B test how I feel carrying them around. The main reason why I've used the 15 inches after all this time is just because I've always loved the idea of having dedicated graphics and working on videos and films and stuff. That seems like it's been something that's always been exclusive to having to carry around this bigger form factor to have desktop-like power. When I was testing and setting up Evan's MacBook, and I was even trying out an M1 MacBook Air, I just loved the portability aspect of it, you know? This doesn't feel ridiculously heavy by any means, but it does become a hassle over time if you have to carry this around everywhere. So do I think it's worth it in 2022? I would say yes, and even though you can get more power out of any more recent Intel MacBook Pro, I think what preserves this one in history is the keyboard and the ports, of course. I think if you're a photo editor and a graphic designer maybe, and you're looking to get into that Apple ecosystem with a MacBook, then this is going to be perfect for you. Anything else might be a little more intensive and might slow down performance, but overall you're still getting pretty solid power for 2022 for a 7-year-old laptop. And even if you're not doing any professional work, then the 13-inch model that Evan has is completely fine for just basic web browsing and Netflix too. Anyways, thanks for tuning in for this episode of Technical Knockout Reviews. Like I mentioned before, I'll be getting the M1 Pro MacBook pretty soon, so be on the lookout for that video and unboxing experience. Again, I'm Kory with Quacking Pancakes, and I hope you have a great day.